Hello and a very, very happy new year. Well, of course, new year, it's a time for hope and optimism. And Britain's favourite Sunday sermon is back. I want to just talk about borrowing and spending. Because in an ideal world, we would, of course, always earn more than we spend. But occasionally, it's not possible. You need to borrow a bit short term. Here's the thing, though. You can't keep borrowing if you're not increasing your earnings, your value. When you buy a house, you probably need a mortgage and you start paying off the mortgage. And you might want to do a refurb, so you've got to borrow a bit more. Hopefully the value of the house goes up in value way more than how much more you borrow for the refurbishment. But what happens if the value of the house stays the same, or even worse, goes down? You can't keep borrowing. Eventually, you run out of money. And here's the point. With regard to the UK economy, I'm really concerned because the fact is we're not growing the economy and yet we're still borrowing more and more. In this year alone, it's going to be about £150 billion, give or take. That's almost 5% of the size of the economy. If we're not growing and we keep borrowing, eventually we will run out of money. That's the thing. I can't see any growth in 2024. Worse, we could go into a recession. We can get away with it for a year or two. But if the markets think that there's no growth, then very quickly we're in trouble. Very quickly we could genuinely run out of money. So some hard choices are needed. We've got to cut out the wasteful, unnecessary government spending so that we can cut taxes, cut daft regulations and go for growth. Everybody wants growth, but you've got to make the choices to make that happen. You can't just keep spending willy-nilly with daft stuff, unnecessary stuff. Hard choices are needed. I was told this week it can't be done. Let me tell you, it can. Households are doing it. Small businesses, medium businesses, big businesses are making hard choices, cutting out the waste, cutting out the unnecessary spending. Look, we'd all like to have as much money as possible to spend on lots of things just to keep on shopping. It doesn't happen like that in the real world. So you may want to paint zebra crossings in rainbow-coloured flags for a month. You may want to paint the front of trains in rainbow flags for a month. But do you really need to? Is it essential? Of course it's not. The truth is, it's a small example. Let me give you another small example. I know a number of people in the public sector, they keep saying to me, I was told I had to take sick leave in order to not to embarrass other people in the public sector. When you mushroom that, when you expand that across the whole of the public sector, that sense of entitlement to sick leave, guess what? Your productivity goes down. Sorry, folks, hard choices. If we keep spending more than we're earning as an economy in the public sector, we're going to run out of money. Some serious, difficult, hard choices are going to be required. In every single council, every quango, every commission, every public department, difficult choices are going to have to be made. In the health service, for example, I keep hearing it, where people say there's managers everywhere with clipboards, it's so unproductive, it's so bureaucratic, it's so slow. I'm told it can't be done any better and there's not that many managers. Here's a simple example. I know a surgeon who, when he does the same operation in NHS hospitals, he can do 2 every morning. But in a private hospital, exactly the same operation, he can do 3 in the same morning. That's 50% more. Why? Simply, it's better organised. It's better managed. That's how you get productivity. That's how you perform. That's how you create growth. That's the benefit of competitive tension. People who idly, complacently, arrogantly think that you can't cut waste from the public sector in the same way that we're all cutting waste in businesses and in our homes, I'm sorry, you're wrong. We can and we must. Because if we don't do this, we're not going to be able to afford to cut taxes, we're not going to create any growth, and at some point in the not too distant future, the markets are going to make it very clear to us. Sorry folks, we're not going to lend you any more cash. You're out of money. You're out of time. Other people won't tell it as it is, but I'm telling you, on this Sunday sermon, and I know it's not the huge optimistic message you might want at the beginning of a new year, but it's the reality, it's the harsh truth. We've got to cut out the waste. We've got to create some growth, conditions for growth. If we don't, we're going to run out of money sooner rather than later. And with that, here endeth my Sunday sermon.